Nancy, thank you so much for having me to your studio today. I was just telling my husband I hate all of our decor, everything we own. I'm ready to start over, so I've been looking a lot at pieces that I like, and they're all ceramic. I'm really drawn to that right now. When did you fall in love with ceramics?
Well, actually, I was in my early 40s. I really hadn't paid that much attention to it before, but I was with a friend. We were on a road trip to California, and we spent some time in Utah, and we did some galleries in California. And I'm like you, it was like the pottery just caught my eye everywhere. In some of the places, we were actually at the factories, and you could see the people doing it. I said, man, as soon as I get home, I gotta try this.
Yeah.
And it took a little while to find a class, but I did. And I have to say, as soon as I sat down behind a wheel, I was hooked. I was like, yeah, this is for me,
Okay, so that's the difference between you and me, because I've tried it. I was awful.
I was too. Nobody sits down and makes a pot first try. Yeah, I was terrible too. But I just love the feel of it. The clay and movement and people are right. It is kind of a Zen sort of experience. Yeah. Once you're good enough to be to be able to do it,
So, but how long does it take to get to that point?
Well, it depends on how much effort you put into it,
That's fair.
So I do some private lessons, and they're 2 hours, just one-on-one. And I tell those people, in that 2 hours of just me and you sitting here, you'll probably learn as much as you would have 6 or 8 weeks of a class, And all my students after one will end up with an ashtray sort of thing. And if they do 2 or 3 lessons, they'll have a little bowl or something,
Yeah.
So it does take some time, but focus time is really the key to it.
So once you found that first class and thought, okay, this is for me, when did you kind of get into the hang of it and start to feel at least relatively proficient?
Oh, I bought my wheel like within 6 months of my first class,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
so you really were all in.
I was in.
Yeah.
I was all in. But the kids were grown, It was that stage in life when I could put a little more effort into things.
Yeah.
But it was always a hobby. But I mean, within that first year, I felt like I could at least do certain things. It's been a process. It's been almost 30 years now.
Yeah.
But when I like lidded things, I like the tight craftsmanship. I'm not like a real, they say artists, so be so loosen up, and stuff.
Yeah.
I like that tight craftsmanship sort of
Yes.
thing. And when I got to the point where I could throw lids and determine the shape, not just whatever happened,
Right.
then I really felt that I was beginning to be proficient in it.
So I read that you are really into functional pieces.
Yes.
What is it about really combining form and function that you prefer?
Well, I like my pottery to be used.
Sure.
I want something that people are going to use. It's nice to sit it on a shelf. I do that. But I really want them to use it, but I want it to be something beautiful that they use.
Right.
So that's kind of, I say that I try to create beautiful functional pottery.
Yes. It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, yeah.
I was looking over your shoulder and saying, I love seeing all of the little tools.
Yeah.
What kind of tools do you use to create beautiful pieces? This shows how little I know about pottery.
Well, just the basic beginner set is really all you need, which is a sponge and a needle tool, which is just a needle on a handle, And
what is that used for? What is it used for, Nancy?
well, believe it or not, and I still do this, when you throw it and you open it up, you need to test how thick the bottom is. And you stick that needle tool in there and you bring it out and you go, oh no, I need to go a little bit more. I mean, I still do that.
Yeah.
And then lots of other things too.
Yeah.
And then a rib, which is just a wooden shape to help you to sort of form it and straighten it and things like that. But over the years, I've gotten my favorite things.
Yeah.
I make my own ribs out of credit cards and things that have a particular shape that I want. But I'm a tool nut. I still buy way too many tools.
But you also, I saw over here a hair comb and
yeah.
things like that. So do you just play?
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, the combs are fun, especially when you're making handles and things like that.
Yeah.
I have some just roller stamps. you know, and
Yeah.
those are kind of fun to touch them against the wet pot and let them roll around and
Yeah.
make a design. So,
How often do you set out to make a certain piece, something that you have in your head, and it just doesn't come to fruition?
well, not that often anymore. You know, it used to be a lot.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. You just got to learn that sometimes you just got to let it be what it wants to be. And that's a hard thing to learn.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I mean, I'll set out and it's like, okay, today I'm going to throw casseroles or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's a piece that just wants to be something else. And finally, you just have to give up and say, okay. And it ends up being a platter or something, you know.
Is that frustrating or?
Used to be. Now it's kind of a gift. You know, it's
Okay,
like, oh, look, I got a little gift today. You know,
Yeah.
something different happened.
Now, tell me about all of the glazes. I'm looking at pieces up here that have different colors of glaze. Is it literally just there's a color, like a paint color, a glaze color, and you use just that, or do you mix them?
You layer them.
Okay.
And glazes aren't necessarily the color that they look like when they go on. Some are,
Okay.
but most of them aren't. And what you get when it fires is something totally different than you would have thought when you brushed it on. And they have wonderful websites. And there's Facebook groups that people say, oh, look what happens when you put this glaze on top of this glaze.
Okay.
But I still try them all, and so you make little test tiles, you know, where you try them and you write on the bottom what you've got on them.
Yeah.
And so I have some favorite combinations. I have some that didn't turn out very well at all.
Now, you mentioned that you do private lessons. What do you learn from your students, or do you?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, anytime you interact with people, you know, it's fun. And I've had, like, one of my favorite students was a little eight, well, she was probably 12 by the time we finished. And she would come to me every year to make her 4-H piece. She was wonderful. But then I've had one lady that she always wanted to do it all of her life, but she was just getting older and frail. And her daughter said, what can we do? And I said, I can get her all set up to where she doesn't have to center it, she doesn't have to do any of the hard stuff, but then she can shape it. She was thrilled with that.
Oh,
You know.
good.
So people are just fun to
Yeah.
sit and interact with. And
Now, you were showing me some pieces that your grandkids made that you put a firecracker
Yeah, we
in.
did. They're-
Okay, tell me about that, and then where you got the idea.
well, I got the idea online from some other potter, you know.
What an age we live in, right?
It's you know, nowadays you could almost, not entirely, you could almost learn to throw pottery from YouTube. Now there has to be some hands-on.
Sure. Let's say some people could.
Yeah,
I could not. I
Yeah,
assure
yeah.
you.
Yeah, but these little bang pots were fun. I'd seen this guy had done them. So I made little cubes, like about 4-inch cubes, and then they all came and they all sat around the table, even the 1-year-old. And so they put their name on the bottom and then they decorated the 4 sides, whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
We stuck stuff on, we drew in them, we rolled the rollers over them, all kinds of stuff. And then we took them outside, and of all days, it was raining.
Oh no.
But it was like, no, we're going to do these
Yeah,
irregardless.
yeah.
So we went on the front porch, and so you stick one firecracker in them. So they would each take their own pot, and they would stick their firecracker in it, and then we kept everybody like way back on one side of the porch,
Yeah.
and we'd let them light it, and then back up. And it was such fun. But it got on the ceiling of the porch.
A lasting memory.
yeah, yeah. But it was great fun. Yeah.
But they're so cool. It's like a not jagged, but a rough edge.
Oh, it's
that's-
very jagged, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it just, and some of them blew out really deep, and some of them didn't, and
They're really cool.
yeah.
So what's next? Do you want to continue working with individual students? Do you have a big project in mind, or are you content just?
Oh, I'm pretty content,
Yeah.
and luckily I don't have to rely on it to make an income or living.
Sure.
You know, so that gives me a whole lot of freedom. But I'm very content, and at this stage of my life, I'm actually starting to slow down a little bit on the pottery. You know, maybe not produce quite as much as I did. It's a lot of work to haul that stuff out to the art fairs and things.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you were saying before we started shooting, gosh, I just can't sit and throw for 8 hours anymore.
I can't.
I'm like, 8 hours? Nancy, I can't do anything for 8 hours. So is that, I mean, is legitimately you would sit for an entire day?
I would spend 8 hours in the studio. Now, it may not have been like 8 hours throwing.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But yeah, a big part of that time I would have been throwing.
Wow.
Yeah, but then the arthritis got me, so.
Yeah, but and that was joyful. That it wasn't tedious, or was it?
Oh no, I loved it.
Ah.
Absolutely loved it. You know, but
Yeah.
like I said, I've got a real comfortable space down here.
Yeah.
I turn on some music, and you know.
And get into that zen.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous.
Oh.
I've literally tried 2 or 3 times to throw pottery, and it's just.
Well, you should come over sometime. And
But okay, I love you and I trust you, but everybody says to me, "Oh, I'm going to be the one who can get you to do it,"
Yeah.
and then they go,
no. Okay, never mind. Send your daughter when she's a few
"There we
years
go,
older.
there we go," 'cause I might be a lost cause. Well, regardless. Your work is so beautiful, and
Oh, thank
now more than
you.
ever,
Thank
I'm like,
you.
okay, it's happening. My house has to have these kind of pieces in it. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Oh, well, thank you for coming. It was a real exciting thing for me when I heard you guys wanted to come talk to me.
Well, I hope that even though you're slowing down a little bit, you don't stop.
Oh, no, I'm not ready to stop
Good,
at all.
good, good. This is
Not at all.
beautiful. Thank you so much, Nancy.
Oh, thank you, Emily.